What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Namra podcast with myself, Taylor, Russ, Sahil, and Justin. Today's episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the lessons we wish we knew and what we learned over the past 5-6 years. Not to kind of say as if we have everything figured out, but just to share some important lessons that we learned along the way. So hopefully people, earlier on in their careers can learn from it and take from it what they will, and hopefully learn from some of our mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially in our industry, the creative industry, videographers, web designers, like everybody's kind of looking to start their own company or has some sort of entrepreneurial spirit. So, any value we can provide somebody just getting started makes us feel good.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing that we had an advantage of coming into like this digital marketing, very creative space, was the fact that we were all business minded going into it. We weren't necessarily creatives going into this. We were marketers, Sahil finance background. So we had a real business sense going in, but we learned a lot on the creative side as we went. So I think just like that's something to keep in mind, a grain of salt, or, when whoever's listening to this, I think everyone has different experiences. So they're going to start at different places and different attributes.
Everybody starts with totally different skills, totally different place in business, different opportunities present themselves in the very beginning to everybody. So it's like, here's what worked for us, and hopefully you can apply some of this to your business as you get it started.
Yeah, whether you're in marketing or just in business in general. So all right, who has like one big point that they want to touch on, or one thing they think is important to talk about? What's anything? I'll open it up.
Well, sure. I mean, I was just going to say, where do people start? Yeah. Like somebody who knows that they want to like not work for somebody anymore. Like, what is the first step in your opinion?
And Justin and I were just talking about this. I'm glad you brought that up. Like, start at the start. And the best advice you have is start. Like, what did we do? We had really no help and no like clear roadmap when we started, besides we want to do social media management for businesses. We want to take pictures and post for other businesses.
We found a place. We started from a place of, okay, we can provide value here. So here's how we're going to do it.
Yeah. And then what? Like, what did we do?
Yeah.
That's the fun part, because everybody's got like that idea, but then what did we do? It was like pounding pavement.
Yeah. Right.
That was step one.
That grind. Right.
And one other thing, we started with good people around us. So us three worked together. Like, we all had 3 different, I think, strengths and areas of expertise, things that we brought different things to the table. So I think first off was like surrounding yourself with people who brought you up. And I think now, like Justin, I wish we had Justin 5 years ago when we were starting, because he brings something very different to the table that we don't. So I think that's one thing. Just keep bringing in people around your weaknesses to make you better as a unit, because it's not just you, it's the entire business and company as a team. Whatever you're looking to do, you need to bring in those people around you to make you better.
Taylor, I'm interested in hearing your perspective of that, and as to why you feel like a team is more important than, say, starting solo, because I think a lot of people have that idea of like, I need to create this thing for myself. But I've learned, and I'm sure all of you have learned too, that there are just areas that you can't cover alone. So can you touch on that a little?
Yeah, so I can only speak to my experience with it. I couldn't have done this alone. I could not have gone about this on my own alone. I know there's a ton of people who would say it's way better. You have a higher % chance of doing well if you start on your own, because you don't have to deal with personalities. Once you start going into business with someone, that's a totally different ballgame. We were in a unique situation where, like, Sahil and I didn't even know each other before we got started. It was professional relationship first, and then the personal relationship kind of developed from there. Now we're brothers, but so I think you have to know yourself, know your strengths, know your weaknesses. Do you play well in the sandbox with others? Actually evaluate your strengths and weaknesses. Maybe you are like that one person who can do it all on their own. That's totally fine. Then, go that route. But if you have some real flaws that you think are setting you back, I think it's really important to bring people in around you that can support you, make you better. That's
what do they say? Like the sum of
the total parts.
Exactly. Sum of the total is greater than the individuals if they were individuals, right? So
you nailed that. Huh? I think that's it.
Yeah. Direct quote.
Yeah.
Russ makes it.
Michael Scott.
But yeah, I mean, that's the idea, right? Is that like the 3 of us, if we were to start our own companies, we wouldn't have gotten close to even 1/3 of where we're at now. That's the whole idea. So like you said, depends on your personality. I think you and I both, like, Sahil too. Like we all kind of played team sports growing up, so I think naturally we were like inclined to find a good team who complemented each other's weaknesses, and it has worked out. And thankful for that. But to each their own.
What about you, Sahil? I'm interested in hearing your perspective of that.
Well, I think going off of these guys, another thing, especially right when starting out, I think confidence in your product or service, it's huge, because taking the leap into entrepreneurship can be scary for a lot of people. And if you believe strongly in your story, whether, if the story is going to be the brand, or if you've created a story behind the product that's solving a problem for many people out there, have the confidence to believe in it. Oftentimes it's going to be the people that are closest to you, family, best friends, that are often driving you away from it.
Yeah.
Or you might read stuff that makes you second guess yourself or anything. I mean, no business out there. If you look at the shop down the street or the Apples and Googles of the world, I mean, they all started because someone believed in something. And how many of those started in people's garages or basements and stuff, right? It's so have the confidence to believe in your product and your story, and take that leap of faith. I mean, you're not going to know everything starting out, right? As these guys are saying, I mean, you might have strengths and weaknesses. You might be very good at something, might be weak in other things. Yeah, find help for the things you're weak in, or maybe if you really are starting out by yourself, and you don't have a support system, I mean, take the time to chip away at those things, but don't let that be a deterrent to starting in the first place. And I think the second most important thing is just assuming formlessness when you're starting out, because you might have a business plan or a vision of how you're going to go into it, but you do have to be like water and change shape. I mean, in this world, it's constantly changing. Every single day, you might, have to roll with a few punches. So yeah, you might have a business plan and how you were going to execute, and your team ready, and all these things figured out. But the next day it can change. There can be a new platform, or someone leaves from your team, or maybe something changed with budget, like whatever it may be. Like, you do have to just assume that
You have to
like the characteristic of water. Like, you're gonna have to adapt to what you're put into. I think those are two important things.
With like service-based businesses, especially, like obviously if you're selling T-shirts, you're selling T-shirts. You can make different designs for T-shirts, if your customers don't like the originals. But with our businesses and a lot of service-based businesses, it's like your clients kind of, if you listen properly, they teach you what services you should be providing. Like in the beginning, we were doing really heavy. I mean, we still do, but like, it was heavier around like the management of your social media and posting for you, which obviously huge staple of our business still. But man, like our clients needed videos, and look at us now. Like, we've evolved to become this really, really big production company. That would have never happened if we didn't keep our ear to the ground during every conversation with clients, even people who said no in the beginning. It's like you listen and evolve, and that way it's helpful.
I think it's like the Mike Tyson quote: everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. It's the same exact way. You don't know what's coming tomorrow.
That's it. Yeah, you have to adapt. Yeah. And you have to be like water. I mean, believe in your product, believe strongly in your story, what you're about, and the pain point that you're solving, but at the same time be ready to adapt. You will have to adapt.
Well, and we went into it from a different perspective, where it was we didn't have like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of funding to do this one specific thing. We're not an app or a widget. I think what helped us is we didn't go into this saying we're going to be a company that just posts on social media for people. That was not
hard.
Yeah, and full stop. Our value prop was always help businesses on digital marketing and provide value. And I think like our mission, our vision, like statement for the company is just, what can we do to remove as many headaches associated with social media, digital marketing? How can we remove the most headaches? That's where we provide value. And whether that's like posting on Facebook versus posting on YouTube, it doesn't really matter. Our goal is to pretty much figure out what the headache is. Is it video content? Is it posting? And that's what will help. And that's what we do. And that's what kind of our business evolves around. It's figuring out those headaches. How can we solve it? And that's really the main thing, making sure you have a good North Star to bounce off.
Yeah, I think that's super important. Go ahead, Sahil.
I was just gonna say, and we came in with the confidence, right? Yeah. It's you guys had the marketing background. I mean, I was helping, my parents with their shop since I was little, like since Facebook came out, mingling around here and there on social platforms. So like
and don't hold on, that's an important thing. You had a lot more business experience in college, at a young age than most people
ever.
So
so like we came together and we said, hey, well, like this is how, things work on this side of marketing on the digital side, and we believed in it, and like we had the experience to back it up. We had, like the knowledge, like collectively to back it up. And yeah, we were just like, all right, we have the confidence, like, let's do this. We're going to have to adapt, like based on, what we're learning as we're starting out, whether that's with sales or, markets or whatever we're doing. But yeah, that confidence never faltered in what we believed in.
For you, what's one thing that you feel like you really wish you either went into or invested sooner, or one thing that you maybe wasted time on? Is there anything that sticks out for you in particular, Sahil, that you wish, I wish we just did this like a couple of years ago or did sooner or anything like that?
Well, I think in our position starting out, like you mentioned, we didn't start with all the seed capital or delegation capital to really just start with the team in the first place. So when you start with a background like that, it's very easy to run into a paralysis of thinking you need to do everything. So whether, I don't care if you're a freelance graphic designer starting with logo services for 50, it's like, if you can find a way to get help reinvesting and plowing back some of that capital back in your, like, do it. Do it. Like, don't think I need to do all of this. I need to save all of this money. Like, I just started out. It's like, be ready to just make nothing.
Keep reinvesting in your skill
be in the
set.
mindset that, like the money that you're making, like your first few years in business, just reinvest it all back. Yeah. It's going to help you scale further. It's going to help you have more time to sell further or sell more products, whatever it may be that your business is. But yeah, don't feel like you just need to, retain, just all that kind of, like, you do need to reinvest it back in. I know it's a little bit scary when you're starting out with nothing, right? Like if you, like when you started out, you
especially
invested all your time and all your right back in it. Like you're tempted. You're almost paralyzed to really just thinking that, like, I need to just withdraw as much. But no, like, hey, figure out a way to get some help. Like, time is of the essence.
So Sahil, what would you recommend people use? Me and Russ were actually talking about this, and it's interesting you brought up this point. Somebody at the end of the month, they have all their bills paid, and they're all set. They got an extra $500, and they're just new in their business. How can they reinvest that within their business? Obviously, it's different for everybody, but from a marketing standpoint, what do you think the best use of that initial $500 could be?
Well, I mean, that's you
say
kind of hit the nail.
Consistent.
Yeah, you've kind of hit the nail on the head with that one, Justin. Like it is different for everyone, but from the marketing standpoint, one of the cheapest forms is social media ads. You don't even have to put the whole 500 and this can work for service and retail based businesses. That's why I'm saying this, or it can work for the professional services and freelancers, like whatever you may be. I mean, you can start out boost with $5, $10. That's one way. Yeah, reinvest that. Yeah, reinvest that and test out a few things, test out 4 or 5 different ones, put in $10. That's what, $40, $50. Like from that, you're going to learn so much, like what's working, what market, should I pursue, test drive new markets. Like that's one easy way of validating your business idea.
Right.
Hell, you can do that before you even start your business. Make a Facebook page, test drive your business idea, just put in a $10 boost, see if there's actual interest for it. Yeah.
We always talk about, like, hypothetically, if we were going to open like a retail business or like a restaurant, like before you invest all the money in the building and setting it all up, why don't you just like make a little Instagram ad and see if people in that town are looking for that sort of restaurant? If the response is off the charts, and all the comments are like, oh my God, we can't wait, then it's like, all right, you have a little validation that it's worth starting that business. If you get crickets, then maybe not. That's okay too. But at least you spent $100 to learn that instead of.
And there are free resources out there too. I mean, I know of a bunch of websites that you can search hot SEO topics and stuff like that, and geolocate them. So you don't even have to spend money for that.
I came up with a client today, actually. Like, we were on the phone and I got a call from a client saying like how they just canceled like $500 a month worth of print advertising and like $450 a month worth of local TV ads that they were running. And they just decided like this past month to give us $500 to play around with on Facebook ads. And I told him how many clicks he got on the website I think we've only spent $85 in the last week on ads, like super light, and already like more clicks than he was getting to the site than ever before. And I was like, yeah, like this is the most efficient place to put your money. We're not just saying that.
Yeah.
So if you are starting out and you're looking to like just dabble with ads and see what interest is out there, Facebook ads, $5-10 can go a long way.
And like we always say, you get your feet kind of wet in the water, you kind of figure out how to market yourself, and then you realize actually like how difficult it really is to stay consistent with your marketing if that's not your main focus, so then that kind of gives the value to you guys, and it shows people like, okay, like this is the value of why we hire a marketing team.
Yeah. Right? Well, that's the thing you figure out, like as you start, if you're on your own, you kind of you force yourself to become a jack of all trades. Like we taught ourselves how to do graphic design and shoot high quality videos and everything else involved. And then you learn what you're good and not good at.
And I did like the question where it was, after your first month in business, let's say you had $500, what else could you do? So yes, like social media ads was one of them because it's such a cheap route just to test out more things. Another thing would be, take the time to just reflect on what took the most time out of your days. That first month. Was it the accounting? Was it planning out content? One quick example is like, if you're in business where you have to create invoices, were you spending, hours typing up Word documents of separate invoices? Like, if that's the case, maybe it's streamline that. Yeah, maybe it's best just to get a $10 invoice service. You can set up a template and it just sends out automated invoices. And now you just got maybe 2 hours back of your day that now you can use to make that 500 into 750, 1,000. Totally. So reflect back on what took out the most time, and then find. There's hundreds of solutions out there for your problems. So just take the time to, figure out what it is that took the most time away from you, and then find the solutions that are within that $500 budget to, just reinvest in and keep on moving forward.
Yeah, it's really simple. It's just a basic process when you break it down. It's just realistic. Like, what could you do better, and break it down from there.
Yeah,
that's it.
I have one of our clients. He shared this with me, and I thought it was really awesome business practice. What he did was, he was looking to he wanted more time back, and he was looking to hire. So what he did is he literally for like 2 weeks straight, he wrote down every single thing that he did, like woke up, brushed teeth, everything. Love this. Okay. And how much time it took. And he looked at it and he was like, okay, where can, like you said, where am I spending the most amount of my time? Where can I pull that out? Like for me, I don't do my laundry anymore. I fucking hate it. And it takes me so long walking down 3 flights of stairs. So I pay for it. And it's like, it's worth it over the year. Right. It's like, okay, what do I pay a month for this? And what am I going to pay for a year?
And what time are you spending on it too?
Exactly. So that's one thing definitely to that point. It's like, where are you wasting time?
It's opportunity cost.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be on the business side.
What can you do with that extra time that could add way more value?
And then to build off that, like, I wish I just listened to myself a little bit more. And I always thought, like, if I hated doing something, or if I felt, oh God, I just hate doing this, I was being lazy if I didn't just push through. Your body and your mind is telling you something. If you're doing something that you hate and you just fucking dread it the night before, look at that seriously and take that serious. And don't just think you're being lazy, because there might be something else going on. Those major pain points for you, that's actually probably your fucking body telling you, we can't be doing this long term. It's not sustainable. And I guarantee you, if you Google, for me, it was like, project management stuff or keeping track of communications. Right. It was giving me like an ulcer, being like, oh, where are we in each step of the process? So what do? I Googled like project management systems, and I did a deep dive for like weeks figuring out which ones were right. And if I could do it again, I wish I would have done it sooner, and I wouldn't have worried so much about which one is perfect. It's like, just start with one and just see how it goes. Test things out, see what works.
Assume formlessness.
Exactly. And it's like,
you're going to have to
attached
change.
things.
Maybe you'll pick a system. You'll have to change it 3 years down the line. It happens, but have something.
And
just start.
I think that's a huge point. That's not even tactical. It's more like emotional awareness of like, you need to learn a lot about yourself and how your brain works. And because just like you said, like you have your skills, I have my skills, and I've written the same like I shared that note with you guys a couple weeks ago, like a note I wrote 4 years ago to myself, like, I can't be doing these things long term. We need to hire someone.
Right. Yeah.
And it was a crazy thing to look back on because now we have, and things are great. But oftentimes your partners are the ones who, like, that's the whole point of a partnership, is the things that you hate doing are the things I hate doing are the things that you're best at, and vice versa sometimes, you know what I mean? And we all,
For
three of
better or
us, all
worse.
four of us have a pretty good connection to each other in that way. Like, there's certain like organizational things that I'm not good at. I tend to skew a little more towards like all over the place creative part of my brain, but you guys fill in the blanks, and I think I try to do the same for you guys in your areas of weakness.
And I want to say
you have to know who you the only way you figure out who you are and what you hate doing is by trying everything.
Yeah, and it's super important, like you said. Like, at the end of the day, you're not going to know unless you try. So throw yourself in, fail, try, and then you learn exactly what it is you need to do differently.
Yeah.
And Justin, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Justin and I were talking earlier. Like, I saw a post on Instagram last night, and it was a good quote. Like, the biggest lie I've ever been told is that it's not that simple. The truth is that it is that simple. Everybody tells you, like, don't do this. Like, starting your business, it's not that simple. It's way too complicated. But at the end of the day, when you break it down, each individual step is pretty simple. Like, you just have to go do it and then learn. If you failed, you learn. If you succeed, you learn. It is that simple. And then you just keep going.
I think a lot of times people misconstrue something being simple for something being easy.
Yeah.
Those are two very different things.
Don't get in that analysis, paralysis. That's going back to the point earlier. It's just there are a lot of different elements to think about. There are so many things when starting out, especially when taking that leap of faith, especially when you're only 3-4 months in, your first year in, 2 years in. But I mean, if we've learned anything, we can assure someone that feeling never goes away.
Yeah.
Whether you're, your first month, 5 years in, when we'll be 15 years in, but that feeling of, oh my God, is this decision going to, it's like, is this the right one? Or are we adapting properly? Or are there better options out there? Like, what's the calculations on this? Like, no.
At the end of the day, the accountability is on you. So that's the biggest, that's the biggest stress point.
It's scary to say. Like, now we're able to say, will this decision, good, bad, the worst, if this is the worst decision I've ever made, will it matter in 3 months? Right? It's hard to do that when you haven't been in business for 3 months.
Right.
And now, so you have to just take everything as a learning process. You helped me with this a lot. Whatever, either way, learn from it. And so I think that's one thing I wish I did more of, is like, be a little bit less emotional about decisions and things you have to do. I took everything very, very much to heart, and I think that's part of why we're successful. But it was not necessarily scary, but you hang the weight of the world on every decision.
Like, a little more patience of learning what's an emergency, what's not.
Be allowed to learn. You don't have to know everything when you're first getting started. Take things as a learning experience, and that makes it probably make it easier to sleep at night.
Everybody has room to grow.
But you're right. A balance is key.
And you're going to make bad mistakes. I mean, you're going to make those bad decisions. That's a part of business, right? I mean, you could be in a restaurant. You can have 500 5-star reviews, but you will have that one that, it's like, there's no perfection in business. I mean, Amazon, as big as they are, still have bugs that they're fixing.
If everything's perfect,
it's like,
or too smooth,
imagine if they worried about, oh my God, like this one bug, we got to stop our whole system until we fix it. Like,
that's the thing.
You
like,
just roll with it.
Imperfection or perfection is, I don't know. There's got to be a saying for that. Like,
perfection is an idea. It's not a thing.
Yeah. And
I bet there's a quote like, "There's perfection in
kills
imperfection."
My favorite for that, I was going to say, is ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
Instead of ready, aim, fire, ready, fire, aim. Because how are you going to put something out there and, not know how it's going to do. You have to figure it out and you learn. So.
Yeah, especially in the beginning, you have so much room for failure because no one knows who you are. No one knows what you do. Like going out there and talking to your first 500 even business owners is very low risk. Looking back 5 years later, I don't remember a single person that we talked to, like when we were knocking on
and
doors.
they probably don't remember you.
They don't remember us. We said probably the dumbest stuff we could have ever said in sales calls. We were just knocking on doors. I'm sure looking back, we would hate how we explained our services.
That's how you cut your teeth.
Could have done way better. But yeah, you evolve from that, and none of those conversations now matter.
Yeah. Well, so to kind of build off that, one other thing on like the personal development side of things, I wish I did a little bit sooner, was taking time for myself earlier about like some things like just going to the gym on a more regular fashion. You know, in college, it was crazy structured. And then afterwards, I basically just told myself, I'm going to commit everything to business. Fuck working out. There's no value. I don't need to do it. I've done that forever. I'm good. And I was like sick of it, but I didn't really see the value of it more so than to the end result of like helping me play baseball in college. But then I wish I did stuff like that more structured. I kept that more structured in my life from day one.
I didn't realize
that is
how much
just as important.
Sports and like not the sports themselves, but like the physical activity that I got through sports from, I mean, literally 4 years old to 20. Like I was playing sports, and I didn't realize after college until like a few years later, like, oh, that was a massive staple to my mental health for my whole life that I never thought about. And then, didn't work out for 3 years, and I'm like just crippling depression. It's a slippery slope. You got to listen to yourself.
Right.
Definitely. I mean, if I can add to that, one thing I wish that I also did, you know, on top of working out, it was also just being more mindful of like clean eating earlier on too. You know, like that affected me. You know, it's when you're grinding, you know, 18, 20 hours a day, you forget about what you're putting.
Right.
You know,
it's easy to romanticize the grind too, and be like, I'm doing this because this is the part of the process.
I hate people like that, dude. Like you can still take care of yourself and eat, bro. Like you can, you know, that comes first.
Well, I think the problem becomes like when you've like worked so hard for, you know, let's say you've just had like a 17-hour day. You know, at the end of that day, that box of pizza and flaming hot Cheetos starts to look really good. You know, it starts to smell and look really good. Your
body will tell you, I need that.
Right? Yeah, and you're thinking, yep, like it's been one of those days. I'm going to reward myself. You know.
So Sahil, let me ask you this: what prevents you from picking up that pizza at the end of the day? How have you learned more self-discipline in your personal development?
Well, earlier on, I didn't. That was the problem, and then over time, what happened was, you know, I got better at systems, better at, you know, managing time, all of these different elements of business. And I became very efficient at those things. And I still felt like, hey, I fixed a bunch of these things for myself, but yet I still feel this way, like what's going on. So then, and this was probably just recently, maybe it's been like a year and a half, I started to look inward, and I was saying, well, actually, you know what? Gut is connected to your brain. Let's try to clean up, you know, some of this eating. Let's see how we feel then. You know, let's see if we, you know, substitute in that you know, salad instead of a donut and pizza for lunch.
And it makes a big difference. People don't know.
Do I still feel lethargic in the evening? Right. You know, and it's it just became it went through this awareness. Like I would have never thought it was, you know, what I was eating or skipping out on the gym or something. But no, I realized where, hey, just even going and swinging a kettlebell around for 10 minutes made a huge difference in the evening. I felt great. And now that one action led me to choose a wiser meal at night, because you feel good. So now you want to do something good too. But if you feel like shit the whole day, again, you know, binge watching Netflix and eating Cheetos starts to sound very appealing.
So it's all about really paying attention to who you are and what it is that you need, rather than listening to those exterior influences. Because, like, you know, we brought up earlier, growing up, you know, your parents kind of form who you are, and it's really hard as you get older, especially as a professional, to get away from that. And then, you know, going back to your point, as far as like being in school, you have these structures for at least the first 12 years of your life, and then you automatically you graduate. If you don't go to college, like you have none of that. So yeah, it's really difficult to kind of learn like what it is that you need as an individual and how that affects you, because obviously some people can go out and do things that you can't do that affect your body differently. It's all about understanding who you are, and in turn that affects your entire life.
Yeah.
And it's hard to identify those things. Like in the beginning, especially when you're first starting, it is so like short-sighted, fast-paced, day-to-day, like I'm starting a company, everything's an emergency mindset. But like over time, and like you said, the last year and a half is really like I've started focusing more on this and just being more in tune. But for me, it's more about thinking like, how do I make sure that I can sustain my productivity over the marathon that is the next 30 years of my career, so that people can see the most consistent version of myself. Like I'm not always going to be like my best self every day, right? Some days you're more tired than others.
Some days you're going to have
just a little more grumpy. It just is what it is. Yeah, some days you're going to have that pizza the night before and you're going to feel like shit. Your 8 o'clock meetings the next day. But
it's the fact that you show up.
But that's how I learned. It was like, man, like I've had enough of feeling like crap in the morning. And I know that like maybe you don't notice it during that one meeting, but I want to perform at my best over the course of a long period of time. And if like I can make those little daily changes and it's just like it brings out a brighter version of myself over the long term, then it's worth just being like healthier and focusing on how my body feels more.
Yeah, and hey, pizza and Taco Bell, that's soul food. You don't mess with that, you know? Some nights, there are special nights for that. You leave that. Yeah, just don't do it every night.
I will say that makes the nights a lot better too, because if you hold it to once a month or whatever, you know.
Yeah, and going back to that topic, you know, looking inward, I mean, just diet and getting back onto the workout grind was just what was for me. Looking inward might be different for somebody else. You know, it might be like, do you have other toxic influences? Yeah, like, I mean, do you need to cut
people?
Yeah. Do you need to cut someone out from your life? Yeah. It's not just that. It's the overall holistic viewpoint of, okay, what's impacting you outside of work? What's just sucking your energy right out? Yeah. What's, you know, ruining your mindset for the next day? Like for example, I love being around people. If I'm around the right people, I can be on 4 hours of sleep, but if I can still go till 2 a.m. like the day of, and the energy from like the good people around me, they'll continue.
Keeps going.
The next day. But imagine if you like were just around someone that was like a leech, just sucked everything. You'll be 9 p.m. You'll feel tired and miserable, and now all of a sudden, what are you gonna do? That box of pizza. So seriously, it's like that. Yeah. So it adds up. Point. It adds up. It's not just diet. It can be a multitude of things for you. But you got to make progress on it. And just as we were just talking about business earlier on, you got to start. Just you're not going to reinvent the wheel of your entire life in one day. It's very hard to do that, and it's very hard to sustain discipline if you do that. But if you make progress towards it little by little, it adds up.
Yeah, the people you look up to have not been doing this since day one, the way that they're doing it now. They've come through trials and tribulations, and they've learned what works for them and what doesn't. And
the guy you're following on social media might be a finished product, but that's today. You check in 15 years ago and see how they were doing.
Yeah, you know? And I love the point that you made about some people might not be fit for your journey and what you're looking to get done. And I think there are two types of people. There's people who are batteries and people who are vacuums. And one of them is going to suck the energy out of you, and then the other is going to replenish it. And you want to surround those people, yourself with those people who are going to replenish it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think that's a good, like, when you're first starting piece of advice, too. Like, I think 100%. A lot of people realize that too late. We were lucky in that we met each other early, and we all were on the same page and supported each other through getting rid of the toxic relationships in each other's lives, and et cetera, et cetera. But, like, I think day one, that's a good kind of like jumping off point to like start, like talk to your 5 best friends and like see how many super supportive respond. Like, because for us, it's like, oh, hell yeah, you're starting a business. Let's stay up all night and talk. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. I'm fired up if you're starting
if you're in my corner and you're winning, I'm winning.
Exactly. And I'm all about, but then there's other friends who are like, again, it's not that simple, man. Like, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. And like the second you hear that little negativity, cut. It's not going to be good.
Pay close attention to what people do when you tell them good news.
Right.
That's going to tell you a lot.
Yeah.
When you tell people good news, that will tell you a lot about
Are
who
they
your real
happy
friends
for
are.
you? Or
Yeah, are they clapping when you win?
Are they rooting for you?
clapping
Are they
for
not,
you?
you know?
Yeah, I
It's
think that's
like,
big.
yeah, and that's why it's so important to find the right people too. It's most people, I mean, don't tell your problems to. Most are kind of glad you have them. You know, it's like you do need to sometimes cut out the toxic people in life, and that can make a difference. But yeah, it's different for everyone. For some people it might be that bad relationship, or some people it might be a toxic person that they respect so much, but they're not resonating that backwards and they're just sucking the energy out. For many people it might be diet, for others might be a budget constraint. There's so many, but yeah, just look inwards and I mean make the leap of faith.
Well, to that
based
point,
on what it is.
For me, the biggest thing to kind of like put a bow on it is I think self-auditing. Like just continue to look at things. Maybe take, I don't know, whatever you need to do it once a day for 10 minutes or once a week for an hour.
That's
and write
structure.
down, like, do an audit of yourself. What do you love? What do you hate? What's hard? What's easy? What's going well? What's going bad? And like really just try to take a step back and look at it from a different perspective and just like kind of take the emotion out of it and
like
see what's
you're
going
your
on.
own friend trying to help.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
Like you take yourself, remove yourself
Treat
from your own
yourself-
life, remove yourself from the
Yeah.
emotion, just look at the facts.
Because I think people give really good advice to everyone else and don't take any of it themselves. And I think everyone's guilty of that sometimes. But I wish I did that sooner. Like to give like a practical example, like I said with the laundry, like that's like one of the best things I seriously have done in the past like 2 years. Like the best thing. And effortless dry cleaning and laundry. They're right here local. They pick up. It's a good plug. And then the other thing is Gold Foods in Cranston. That's another plug for you. Gold Foods. Okay. I used to like try to meal prep. I am one of the like, I guess it's relatively rare, but I could eat the same thing every single meal and just be fine. I don't really give a shit. In college, I used to eat ground turkey, sweet potatoes, and like broccoli, and that was it. And it would be cold, and I just don't care. That for me, meal prepping that like once on a Sunday was painful for me. I couldn't do it, and I couldn't keep consistent with it. So now I make like one meal a day. I'll make breakfast or a smoothie. And then at most I'll make, steak for dinner or something like that. If I really want to like reward myself.
Yeah.
Every other meal I have Gold Foods. I found out that people could make you meals that's sick. And I put them in the microwave and I eat it and it's healthy and it's I found a really good hot sauce that I like. And that's it.
Covers it up.
It's perfect for me. And it's not for everyone, but that was perfect for me. And that saves a lot of time and headaches, and I totally recommend, like, that's an example of something anyone can do because it's not that expensive. It's a little bit more expensive than going to Stop and Shop, but it's fucking cheaper than going to Whole Foods.
It's not
And it's
necessarily
healthy.
more expensive than the time you were wasting meal
man.
prepping. That's
Right.
like back to opportunity cost. It's what could you do with that extra time?
Well, if you have that $500 at the end of a month,
Right, there you
it might
go.
be fucking worth it.
Yeah,
it's not that much.
Yeah, it's be mindful of two things. One, what T just said, and the other, what are you going to do with that time? I know some people that, it's they wake up at 4 a.m, right? Because they're on that entrepreneurial grind, like that's what you do. But the thing is from like 4 to like noon, they do nothing.
Right.
It's like, so then what are you doing?
Right.
You just wasted 8 hours just because you woke up early. It's not gonna attract you success. It's like, so what might work for someone might not work for you.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, maximize your time, figure out what works for you. Listen to everyone's advice. Advice is never wrong. They're telling you from their perspective and what works for them.
Right.
So listen to everyone, but like, be nitpicky, pick out what works for.
That's huge.
Yeah, like if you love to cook, then okay, like Taylor's meal prep service might not be what you want, but like maybe you could pick up on his laundry idea, right? Because maybe you hate doing that, and now you're like, hey, actually,
Some people
you know
love
what?
doing it.
Yeah, it's
Weirdos,
like,
I'll say for
kinda
me,
like doing
a
laundry.
biggest problem that I've had and I've been starting to get a hold of is, like you said, really those habits and those systems. Like you said, laundry, awful at it. It's downstairs in my basement, my whole laundry. I forget about it, out of sight, out of mind. And I think for me, writing it down on a to-do list and having that morning routine and that nightly routine has really set me up for success as far as getting ahead of the next day and planning it out and knowing, okay, I'm going to wake up tomorrow at this time and this is what I need to get done. And I think it takes a lot of the stress and the worry out of, like, especially early on, it's like, where am I going to get this job from? What am I going to do? My bank account's not in the place I want it to be at, but it's like, at least if you're making those step-by-step actions, they will add up in the end. And it's all about keeping yourself grounded through those routines. And that's where you'll find the success in yourself. And to go off that, I want to say too, I think I hear a lot of people say that, they wish, oh, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. But I think the universe won't give you what you want until you're ready to receive it. And I think a lot of the time, some people do get things that they're not ready to receive and they lose it. Like, you hear people with the lottery all the time. They win $1 million and then they spend it in a week. And
that's
then it's
the
like,
best example,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. And so it's like the universe isn't going to give you things until you're ready to maintain it and hold it because you don't know how to protect that yet.
And if it does give it to you, you're going to fuck it up because you're not ready. You're not the type of person that's ready to have that yet. And that's kind of what I think a good goal is. Be ready for that opportunity when it presents itself,
Yeah. So. If you're trying to attract and manifest things in your life, you do have to wholeheartedly believe in those things too. Otherwise they won't come. Yeah. Right.
Well, back to what you were saying about kind of you can learn from anybody and you can pick up, like you can take what Taylor said and think, okay, maybe that doesn't work perfectly for me, but that gave me the idea that I can outsource something else. Right. Gathering data from everything in life is super important to entrepreneurship. Like every conversation you have, whether it goes great or if it doesn't go that great, you can learn from it and make the next one better. It's a different at bat.
Figure it out for you. Don't try to duplicate someone else's system just because you respect them so much. Maybe you looked up to them in the business world, and now you're trying to pull the like the Tim Cook schedule of 3:30 in the morning every day and doing 90 minutes. It's just maximize your own time. Everyone has 24 hours in a day. What are you doing with yours? And are you using them the best possible way that you can?
Love that.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put a bow on it.
I do too.
Anything else?
No, I think self-auditing, like you said, that's a huge one.
Emotional and self-auditing with the time and the way you're feeling.
Yep.
Patience. What else? Anything else?
Routines, keeping yourself grounded, finding ways that you can keep yourself grounded.
And surround yourself with people who can build on your strengths. It's super...
and cutting out people who take you down.
Yeah, it's cliche, but it's cliche for a reason because it works. And figure out a way to actually implement those things and do it. Just don't talk about it,
Yeah, and if you have that business idea out there, take the leap of faith, but assume formlessness, okay, and maintain confidence in your story and your product.
Just beautiful. I love that.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you next time.
Till next time, guys. Thanks for checking us out.